fallback protocols. This system had none of that. 14 controllers connected in a straight chain with no safety net. If one went down, they all went down. That's a fundamental design flaw any decent automation engineer would have caught during installation. I opened the original configuration records. Every installation has a sign-off sheet. I scrolled to the approval page. Boyd Haskell. His electronic signature on every page. Boyd built the system that destroyed his own production line. The man who told me a disabled person had no place in his building had personally created the flaw that brought the building to its knees. I sat at my dining table at 3 in the morning and finally understood everything. Why he didn't want me here. Why he blocked my access. Why he went over Iris's head. It was never about my hand. It was never about safety or liability. Boyd knew, or at least suspected, that if a real expert got deep enough into the system, they'd find his fingerprints on the flaw that cost the company over $120,000 and almost shut the whole plant down. I kept working until 4 a.m. Every corrupted sequence rebuilt, ready to upload. I had the fix, and I had the proof. I got to the plant on Thursday morning, day 3, and went straight to Iris. I told her I had the fix ready, but I needed the master terminal. Then carefully, I told her I'd found a design flaw in the original PLC configuration, built into the system from the start. Whoever configured this network skipped redundancy protocols. She said, that network was set up when we expanded 2 years ago. Boyd supervised that project personally. Her face changed. Show me. Iris didn't wait. She walked out of her office and down the hall, straight to Boyd's office. She pushed the door open. Boyd was at his desk with a coffee. Unlock the master terminal, right now. Boyd set his coffee down and stood slowly. I'm not comfortable with this. I've already raised my concerns with the VP. He said it like he'd practiced. Iris didn't blink. The VP called me this morning. He's flying in tonight. He wants to see the line running or he wants to see resignation letters. Your choice. Boyd's face did something I'll never forget, like a mask slipping. 2 seconds of fear. Real, deep, gut-level fear. He walked to the terminal in the corner, typed in his credentials, and unlocked it without a word. I sat down and started uploading. The master terminal pushed code to each of the 14 controllers one at a time, 8 to 10 minutes each. Word got around. Cash stood in the doorway with his arms crossed. Other engineers drifted over. The first controller came online and the first machine made a sound. A low hum, a click, the motor engaged. Red light turned green. Iris sat up straight. Second machine, third, fourth. Every new green light raised the energy. By the 8th, people were standing up and walking toward the line. Cash said from the doorway, it's running. It's actually running. His voice cracked. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. Every machine on the line was running. 2 hours from the moment I sat down. Iris put her hand on the back of my chair. You did it. 14 green lights in a row. The orders could ship. 200 people still had jobs. I did it with one hand, sitting in the office of the man who said I couldn't. That feeling lasted about 5 minutes. Boyd walked back into the control room. He looked at the panel, at me, at Iris, then said he needed to talk to Iris privately. Through the glass wall, I watched him talk fast, hands moving, pointing at his chest. Iris stood with her arms folded, her face going from neutral to hard. She turned and walked back into the control room. Boyd is claiming he identified the code fix last night and shared it with you this morning. He's saying you uploaded his work. 6 months ago, I might have panicked. I didn't. Iris, check the timestamps. I opened the folder with the rebuilt code. Every file was created between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. last night, hours before Boyd unlocked this terminal. She scrolled through the dates. Then I pulled out the USB drive. This is the clean backup of the original system architecture. Cash pulled it off the backup server before Boyd locked down all external access. Cash stepped forward and nodded. I gave it to him Tuesday afternoon. Boyd had already cut off his terminal access by then. There's one more thing. I opened the original PLC configuration file and scrolled to the approval pages. Boyd Haskell's electronic signature on everyone. This is the original configuration installed 2 years ago. There are no failover protocols, no redundancy, no backup pathways. If one controller fails, they all fail. The design flaw that crashed this entire line and cost this company over $150,000 was signed off by Boyd. Iris stood there a long time, scrolling. Then she looked through the glass wall at the production floor. Boyd was out there shaking hands with engineers, clapping shoulders, taking credit. He had no idea what was on that screen. The regional VP was flying in that night, and Iris asked me to stay. I want you here when he arrives. Bring everything. I waited. Through the afternoon, Boyd worked the floor like a politician. Engineer to engineer, hand on the shoulder, quiet word. Cash came in around 4:30. He's telling everyone he coached you through the fix. Says you're a contractor who followed his instructions. Every handshake was another brick in the wall he was building. Some engineers walking past the control room were already looking at me like a guy who got too much credit for following directions. Boyd was good at this. He knew how to control a story. 7 o'clock, headlights through the front windows. Boyd was already at the door, smiling big. He shook the VP's hand and walked him onto the floor, pointing at the machines, gesturing like a man showing off his house. The VP never looked toward the control room. Iris was in her office, door closed, on the phone with one of the big clients, saving the accounts. Stuck. Cash came in 10 minutes later. Boyd told the VP you were a temporary contractor brought in for manual support. Didn't mention your name. Didn't mention the PLC configuration or the code rebuild. The VP's flight back was at 9. He was leaving by 8. It was 7:15, 45 minutes. If Iris didn't get off the phone in time, Boyd's version of events would be the only version the VP ever heard. I thought about waiting. I thought about every other time I'd waited for someone else to step in and speak up for me. Every interview where someone looked at my arm and decided before I opened my mouth. Sitting in Boyd's conference room 3 months ago, listening to him tell me I wasn't capable while he read my resume for the first time. I'd always been the one who said thank you for your time and walked out quietly. I'd always been the one who let someone else's version of me be the final word. Not this time. I grabbed my laptop, checked the USB drive was still plugged in, picked up the 12-page handwritten log Lizette told me to keep, and walked out of the control room. Boyd and the VP were near machine 10, halfway down the line. Boyd was pointing at the control panel, talking about response times. I walked straight at them. Boyd saw me about 20 feet away. His smile faded like a dimmer turning down. By 10 feet, it was gone. I stopped in front of them and extended my hand, my one hand. The VP shook it. I'm the consultant who rebuilt your PLC network. I have something you need to see. Boyd's face went flat, like all the blood drained. The VP looked at Boyd, then back at me. I thought the fix was handled in-house. It wasn't, and I can prove it. I set my laptop on top of the nearest machine. Boyd stepped forward. This isn't the time. The VP held up his hand without looking at him. Let him talk. That was the moment I'd been waiting for. And I don't just mean since February when Boyd told me I had no place in his building. I mean since the first time someone looked at my arm and decided I wasn't enough before I ever opened my mouth. This time, I wasn't walking out. I started from the beginning. System logs, fault codes, the software cascade. The machines were fine. The problem was in the PLC network. I showed him how one bad signal moved through the network because nothing was in place to stop it. Then I opened the rebuilt code folder. These were created between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. on my personal laptop at my dining table. Boyd didn't unlock the master terminal until this morning. Every line of code that brought this line back was written hours before I ever sat down at his terminal. He scrolled through the dates himself. You did this alone? Cash McGrath gave me a backup copy of the original system architecture. Without that, Boyd's access restrictions would have made this impossible. The VP turned to Boyd. Boyd's arms were crossed tight, jaw clenched. Why was access to the master terminal restricted during an active production emergency? Boyd, smooth. Security precaution. Compromised network. I made the call to limit access until we understood what we were dealing with. I pulled out the printed log. Every access request I made over the last 3 days. Every delay. Every response. The VP took it and started reading. First page, 45 minutes of radio silence. Boyd's security review excuse. Second page, secondary terminal access revoked overnight. Third page, the email Boyd sent to the VP's office, calling my access reckless. The 4-word reply that left Iris on her own. The VP stopped on that page. His eyes went over the same line twice. His expression changed. Confusion gone. Something colder in its place. He looked at Boyd. You told me the situation was under control and being handled by your team. That's what your email said. It was. I brought in additional support. You didn't bring anyone in. Iris did. And according to this log, you actively obstructed her consultant. Boyd opened his mouth and nothing came out. Footsteps behind me. Iris, off her call, walking fast across the floor. She saw the VP holding my log and put it together in half a second. There's more. Come with me. She walked toward the control room. The VP followed. Boyd came after us, which was probably the worst decision he made all day. Iris sat at my laptop and opened the original PLC configuration file. She scrolled to the approval signatures. This is the original configuration installed 2 years ago. Look at the signature on every page. Boyd's name, clear as day. Then she pulled up the network diagram. There are no failover protocols, no redundancy, no backup pathways. When one controller went down, they all went down. There was nothing to isolate a failure. She stood and faced the VP. The system was designed to fail. This configuration was signed off by Boyd 2 years ago. The catastrophic failure that cost us $150,000 and nearly lost us 2 major clients was built into the system by our own operations director. The room went so quiet I could hear the line humming through the walls. The VP scrolled through every signature himself, slow, then turned to Boyd. Boyd's arms hung at his sides. No more crossed arms, no more performance. That design was reviewed by the whole team. I wasn't the only one who worked on it. His voice was smaller now. The VP held up my log. But you were the one who signed off on it, and you were the one who blocked the person trying to fix it, and then you tried to take credit for his work. Each sentence landed. Boyd looked at the VP, at Iris, and finally at me. No arrogance left, just fear. I was trying to protect the company. I looked at him. The man who decided in 10 seconds I wasn't worth his time, who looked at my arm and saw a liability, who spent 3 days trying to make me fail. You told me a disabled man had no place in your building. You weren't protecting anyone but yourself. His mouth opened and closed. Nothing came out. The VP stood still a moment. Boyd, my office. Monday morning. Bring your badge. Boyd blinked twice, looked at the floor, and walked out without a word. The VP turned to me, his whole tone different. Can we talk about a longer-term arrangement? Through the glass, 14 machines cycling, green lights running in a straight line. 200 people still had jobs. Iris caught my eye and nodded. A small tip of her head that said everything. Cash stood in the doorway with his arms uncrossed for the first time. Boyd was walking toward the exit, alone, shoulders down, head low, nobody walking with him, nobody stopping him to shake his hand. He pushed through the door, and that was it. I'll send you my rates. They went up. The VP let out a short breath that might have been a laugh. I closed the laptop, unplugged the drive, packed the log into the side pocket. Iris shook my hand and held it an extra second. Thank you. Thank Cash. He's the reason any of this happened. Cash looked away, but the corner of his mouth lifted. I walked out across the floor past the 14 machines doing exactly what they were built to do. An engineer gave me a nod. Another said, good work, man. Same front door I walked through 3 months ago when Boyd told me I didn't belong here. Back then I left quietly. I said thank you for your time, drove home, and didn't make a fuss. That's what I always did. This time I left with every person on that floor knowing exactly who fixed their line, exactly who tried to stop it, and exactly who built the flaw that broke it. I walked into the parking lot and the night air hit my face and it felt good. I put my bag in the passenger seat, got in, and sat with the engine off. My one hand on the steering wheel, the hand that rebuilt 14 controllers in 5 hours, the hand that shook the VPs, the hand that was enough. It was always enough.